Welcome to our featured guest section on Between the Bytes. Today we have with us Russ Page, special guest from 50 Studio. He's here to talk to us a little bit more about marketing. Welcome, Russ. How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Good.
Doing well.
Russ, we wanted to start off a little bit. Tell us about what you do and about your company.
So 50 Studio, we've been around about 10 years. It was a company that I started with a couple of friends right when the economy got a little odd 10 years ago. We all found ourselves without a job and said, let's do this ourselves. So that's what we did, and now we're in the process of rebranding. Our name's going to be developed. We do a lot more software and those kinds of things now, so it's just kind of a structural change. But I manage the business side and the digital marketing side of the business. So a lot of times firms will say they're full service. We are in the sense if it's digital, so you don't generally see us doing brochures and identity and those kinds of things, but digital marketing, web development, web design, that arena is really where we specialize, and I feel like it's been a big benefit for us to just kind of buckle down and say this is what we're good at. So,
that's awesome. Yeah. And you obviously have a marketing background. What got you into marketing?
You know, I actually in school studied public relations and went that route. I worked for a PR firm. I even spent some time in New York City working in the public relations industry.
Wow.
And I just always kind of found myself dipping my toe in the digital world and really enjoyed it. So when I first started 50 Studio, it was basically me, a PR guy, and some web guys, and I thought this just doesn't make sense as a business. And that's when I decided that I would transition. And so that, they're similar in that they have a marketing base to them. Mm-hmm. But that's really where I started in my career, and used to work with the media and pitching stories for companies, and was heavy into tech, public relations, and spent a lot of time in the tech industry.
Wow.
So
cool. So your guys' office, 50 Studio, or soon to be developed, is located in Lehigh. It's kind of the heart of Silicon Slopes.
Yeah.
What is your take on the whole Silicon Slopes trend and the growth of the tech industry in Utah?
I think it's incredible. I don't know how many people realize that whole area even exists because of WordPerfect.
Yes.
And it's a little...
The Ashton family.
Yeah,
right?
It's a little bit older than me, but originally, Utah didn't really have a technology scene. It was WordPerfect, mm-hmm. Which was far more popular than Microsoft Word for a long time, and it was a Utah company started by a BYU professor and a student. I think it was, if I remember, Alan Ashton and Bruce Bastian.
Yep.
And then you also had Novell, and Novell was a company, if I remember correctly, that made it possible for you to connect. I mean, they did all kinds of things, but there was an individual that discovered that they could basically figure out a way for multiple computers to connect to a printer, which is like an odd concept now.
Right.
I mean, of course, it's common, and that's kind of what brought Novell into the tech industry. So you had these two companies that grew significantly in a small town of Utah County. As time went on, acquisitions happened, and there became money and capital, and someone came along and bought all the land at Thanksgiving Point. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. There's nothing out here. There was no Micron. Lehigh, which is where they filmed Footloose, was a tiny town. There was nothing there, and so they put that land there, and then over time, it was great to see these people reinvest back into the economy, and others would have success and reinvest again. And the schools around here became very entrepreneurial, and so now today we have this, Silicon Slopes, kind of a throwback to Silicon Valley, which itself at one point too was farms and orange groves, and so it's kind of interesting how it's followed that similar story. So we're there now, and I just can't believe the growth. I mean, I look out the window of my office there, and there's construction everywhere, mm-hmm. Which is exciting. It's interesting to see what will happen to Utah in the next 15 years because of it, because it's growing so quickly there.
Yeah. It's been exciting to talk about it here on Between the Planets. Russ, we wanted to ask you a little bit about, kind of back to the marketing topic, are there any trends that you're seeing right now in the marketing or development world that companies need to know about?
Yeah, it's interesting. I see trends all the time, and it's interesting because we talk about trends like, hey, it's the new thing. In the fashion world, a trend is here today, gone tomorrow, and that's really what a trend is. And I think that's pretty similar in technology a lot of times, that there's certain principles of marketing, things like that they just don't really change.
Right.
I remember about 10 years ago watching this interview, and this person was asking all these people, what's Web 2.0? And it was hilarious because nobody could really describe it. And I think part of the point was it's just a lot of fluff and baloney.
It's just a phrase.
And I mean, sometimes it feels the same way with the word SaaS and all these other things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we get it. Like, software is changing. You don't have to buy servers anymore and host your own local software. You can when it makes sense. But that's kind of the biggest thing that's happened in the last few years is software and services and those kinds of things have really migrated to the cloud, another nice little trendy buzzword. But it makes a lot of sense, and you're seeing those kinds of things affect retail and brick and mortar. And so it'll be interesting to see how the economy changes over the next few years. Now, on the marketing side, it's the same. I mean, humans have been the same for thousands of years. What will engage them and interest them hasn't changed. I sometimes find more benefit as a marketing professional from studying psychology books and those kinds of things, as opposed to here's 100 marketing tactics to try. Now, those are good and I apply them, but I just find so much benefit from just studying how humans work.
Yeah. So Russ, another thing I want to ask you is there a tip or something that a business owner, they could do to help improve their marketing today, something quick and easy?
Yeah, there's actually, my tip is a book. It's called Weapons of Influence by Robert, I think he said it's Cialdini or something like that. I read that book about 15 years ago, and I just thought, man, this is such an incredible book. And the reason why, go back to what I was talking about with marketing, is he's a professor at Arizona State, University of Arizona. It's one of the Arizonas down there, one of the universities down there. And it literally is just studies of human behavior in a marketing type world. And so I look at it and go, this isn't just some blogger who got fame and wrote a book. Like, these are actual studies of what works and how humans will react. I mean, just one example, he talks about how doctors and dentist offices, those kinds of things, like they struggle with people keeping appointments sometimes. He said, we did a study where rather than fill out the appointment card at the desk, when they had the patient do it themselves, the increase in appointments kept was a 21% increase. And so the book is just fascinating to me because he uses those, and I think it's 5 or 7 principles, and said there's these things, the law of reciprocity, for example, and he talks about all these laws, and they're applicable in life, with relationships, with marketing. You can apply them in an IT world, law. It doesn't matter what your business is. These things are applicable, and they're backed by real science. Wow. which is interesting to me, because it's not just, hey, this is what I think, and I'm riding some fame to make it an expert element. So, Weapons of Influence. Actually, I think it's called Persuasion, Weapons of Influence, or something like that. That would be my recommendation, is dig in and read that book.
Great, thank you. That's a great recommendation. The last thing we'll ask, kind of on similar lines, are there any books or podcasts or just TV shows that you're watching or participating in right now?
I, about 6, 7. How old is my son? He's 5. I would watch this show with my mother-in-law. It was a brand new show. It was called Suits. And for some reason, I just latched on to the Harvey Specter mentality. It's a TV show that I really enjoy. I don't know why, but it's one of my favorite television shows. I actually named my son Harvey. So.
Oh, cool.
And books. I just finished one called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And that book has just been incredible. It's actually, he was an FBI negotiator, so he negotiated with terrorists for hostages and all kinds of scenarios. And it's applicable in life. I mean, some of the things that I learned in that book, my daughter, no joke, called me about 10 days ago at work and said, "Dad, can you bring home a golden retriever puppy?" And I thought, what in the world? And I applied something like, I feel like I'm negotiating with a terrorist here, even though it's my little girl. And I applied some of what he teaches in the book, and obviously I wasn't bringing home a puppy, but the book's just incredible. You'd think that it focuses on like tricky tactics or those kinds of things, and my biggest takeaway was how to listen to people, and how to make them feel like you understand them. And he used numerous examples where he even had one terrorist call him, got a hold of him somehow a year later, where he'd been negotiating for the life of this man, and he said, "I don't know what you did, but your boss should give you a raise because I was going to kill this guy." But he talks about how it was all about helping that guy feel like he understood where he was coming from. And so Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, a great book.
Awesome.
Highly recommend it.
Great. Well, Russ, we really appreciate you coming out today and visiting with us on Between the Bytes and all your advice.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.